All right, so last time was a really good example of what not to do when vibe coding. So now let's try and actually do this the right way. And so I added this section right here, version 1, accidental prototype. It was an accidental prototype because we didn't, or I didn't, add all of these things here. I didn't specify that we wanted a front end, that we wanted to use Flask, and all the different APIs we wanted to use. That's definitely on me for not including it. This time, we're going to make sure we're very thorough. So I actually have a chance to show you the different steps here because I just went haywire and started doing everything. So this time, let's actually put the prompt in here or somewhere so it's easy to review it before we actually put it into Cursor. That little tiny window where you prompt in the app is not great, so it's probably better to just do it here, make sure we have all the context we need, and then we copy and paste it. Also, if we make any mistakes, we'll have a copy and it's just easier to review. So what do we want for the prompt? Just write something really quick here. Okay, so the first thing I did was just rewrite what we had here for the goal. We're going to build an app that translates Japanese podcasts into English and then generates 2 MP3 files we can then use to study. The app should take the original MP3 as input, transcribe the audio, and parse it into individual sentences. This is very important. Translate the transcription, sentence by sentence, generate new audio files from the translation and transcription, combine the new audio files into version A and version B. Version A features each Japanese sentence, followed by its English version, one after the other. Version B features each English sentence, followed by its Japanese version, one after the other. All right, so pretty good. The next thing we want to do is make sure we add this stuff so we don't run into that same issue. So let's just do that now. All right, and here's the additional context that I added. We want the app to be written in Python and feature a front end built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Let's use Flask to host the front end. For APIs, we want to use, and here I just listed the different APIs, and here I just listed the different models we want to use for each of the different steps. So really, we're going to need to be able to handle both OpenAI's models and Anthropic's models. All right, so now we're back in Cursor. As you can see, I've cleaned up everything and trashed the previous project. Even though we saw as a prototype, it worked. So very confident that this is going to work out. It's just a matter of actually following the steps this time so we don't run into any issues, and it has a front end and it uses the models we want. So let's now take our prompt. I'm just going to copy it here. I'm going to paste it in here. All right, make sure we're in agent mode so the AI can do its thing and add new files, run commands, whatever. And this time we're going to use the Claude Sonnet model. I'm sure GPT-5 is great, but I haven't messed with it. Just like I said, it just came out this week. So let's just go with something that I'm confident is going to work first time around without running into issues like last time. And now the last thing we need to do is actually tell it what we want it to do. Because we're explaining that it's going to build the app, so it's probably going to assume that we want it to go ahead and build the app for us, and that's not actually what we want. All right, so I added this little bit right here just to make sure it's really clear. I want you to only write the PRD.md file for this project. This document should contain all the information that you need to understand what we're building. This document will be used in the future to generate tasks for you. Do not write these tasks now. All right, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, and we're just going to add it down here, just for the sake of keeping all the records straight so we know if we made a mistake, we can go back and fix it. We could obviously do it right here, but it's just kind of nice to keep a backup. All right, and off it goes. In the meantime, I'm going to go get some water, and I'll be back. All right, so here is what we got. We got just the one PRD markdown file, so let's just review what it did. All right, I've created a comprehensive product requirements document for the Japanese podcast translator app. The document covers all the essential aspects of the project, including project overview, core functionality, technical architecture, user interface requirements. We didn't specify, but we'll see what it says. Technical specifications, dependencies, testing and deployment, integration details, and output specifications. Okay, so now let's just accept that and take a look at the actual file so we can tweak it and make any changes that we want to before we actually use it to generate tasks, which is the next step. All right, so project overview, web application that translates Japanese podcasts into English, generates 2 different study-focused audio files, app processes MP3 files through transcription, translation, and text-to-speech to create bilingual learning materials. So far, so good. All right, and input processing. So it's going to take our MP3 files via the web interface, and it's going to accept the files via web interface, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, file size limits, validation. progress tracking for long audio files. That's pretty cool. We didn't specify that, but it's nice that it's going to do that. Next is the audio processing pipeline, transcription. It's got the right model, I think. 4.0 mini transcribe, split transcription into individual sentences. Again, this is going to be a little bit tricky. I don't know how it's going to actually do that or how well. So we should probably get a test file, a pretty short one, in case it messes up. We don't spend a lot of time running the very long audio file through the test. And translating, okay, for translation, it's going to use Claude 4.0 Sonnet, which is what we specified, and generate both the English and Japanese using the OpenAI text-to-speech model. I think this is right. Let me just double check. Yes, this is right. All right, looks pretty good. And then combine individual audio files into the two study versions. And here are the different versions. Let's just make sure it's got it right. Japanese sentence, English translation, Japanese sentence, English translation. Now for the technical architecture, here we go. Here it's actually mentioning that it's going to use Flask for our web server. Okay, front end. Yep, looks good. Okay, mobile, that's fine. Didn't ask for that, but it's nice that it's considering that. And here the API. Okay, data flow, MP3 input, transcription, sentence parser. Very curious as to what it's going to do for this bit right here. Translation API, text-to-speech API, audio combiner, and then outputting the files. Looks good. Okay, let's see what it came up with for our actual web page. Pretty standard stuff. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult. We really just want a way to add the files, press go, and then maybe a progress bar about the different status or what stage it's at, and then a way to download the files. And that's basically it. So we just need something really simple, as long as it's not in the command line, because not everyone is comfortable with that. And so doing it this way, I feel, is a little bit nicer. All right, and here we go. It's going to give us the different steps, download buttons for version A, version B, audio preview players, okay. And something that I was just thinking about as I was looking over the security considerations, the API key management. If the idea is that this project is easy enough for anyone to just download, install, and run, then we should probably make this part also very easy. Instead of setting it as an environment variable, we want to have something on the front end where you just click settings, add your keys, and then save them, something like that. Otherwise, that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of making it nice and user-friendly. All right, so we want to make a couple of changes here. So the first thing is we want to have a way for the user to input their API keys via the front end. So that's the first thing. Second thing is it actually has a testing strategy and a deployment considerations and things like that. If we were actually going to deploy this to the web, we would want to include this and include more. But since we're not, this is just a personal project that you'll be able to download and also set up for yourself, we don't really need this. So let's just go ahead and remove this because it's additional complexity that we're really not going to need. It's just a project for ourselves. So let's just let it update this. All right, and I don't know what is going on. I had to run the prompt a couple of times. For whatever reason, 4.0 Sonnet is just not working right now with cursor. I switched over to 3.7 Sonnet, which is going to be good enough. So let's take a look at the changes. Just made a couple of them. Thought I was going to do maybe a little bit more. API key input section for OpenAI Anthropic on the main page. Okay, let's see. Same thing, no persistent storage for the API keys. So it's not going to save them. User provided API keys via front-end interface. Local development considerations, simple setup process, clear instructions for running locally, and log management for debugging. I think that's it. Okay. And then I believe it also removed the testing section. So far, so good. Now let's move on to, we're going to keep all the changes. Let's move on now to the tasks file. All right. So basically I just wrote, now I want you to take the PRD file and generate tasks for yourself to actually implement the project. Put these tasks in a tasks.md file. Try to get the simplest version of this working first so we can make sure the core functionality works before focusing on adding everything else. So especially for much bigger, more complex projects, likely that the AI will try to generate a bunch of tasks, but it might take a while before you can actually test that the core functionality is working. And so by the time you get to that step, it might have messed up somewhere else earlier on in the process. So something I like to do is just make sure that we get the simplest version working first and then focus on everything else. So let's let it do its thing. All right, and it has finished and it created the, well, actually it read my instructions, and so it went ahead and generated the notes.md, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and just accept all the changes so we can review this. So phase 1, project setup and basic structure. So it's gonna create the directory structure, Flask application skeleton. So basically just setting up everything that we're gonna need. And then it's gonna go on to phase 2, core backend functionality, and then move on to the basic front end. And here we go, phase 4, end-to-end testing and refinement. Test complete workflow with small audio files, fix any issues in the processing pipeline, optimize performance for the MVP, and document known limitations. And then we move on to adding things like progress tracking, file validation, and all that good stuff. Okay, so it seems to have done a pretty decent job, and it even split them up into the backend setup and the front end setup. Pretty good. All right. So here we go. Now let's just take a look at notes to see what it's got in here. And it's created the file structure that we have right now, and then just a basic project overview. Let's see, implementation notes. These are the API requirements, so it doesn't forget which APIs we're going to use. The development approach, setting up the basic application. All right. And some technical considerations. Audio files will be processed in chunks to handle memory constraints. Temporary files will be used throughout the processing pipeline. API keys will be provided by the user through the front end, not stored, and the application will run locally only. All right, looking pretty good. So let's just move over to our project here. This so far looks good. So we put together the PRD for the AI to use, and we came up with some tasks based on the PRD. Now we actually get to vibe. So this part's actually going to be pretty straightforward. If this requirements document is clearly defined and you're not missing any important pieces, then the tasks that the AI generated should align pretty well with that specification. And so you are much better set up to actually have some sort of a working project. The next phase is just telling the AI to run it and then get to the point where we can test it and then refine it. So we'll do that next. And that's basically it. It's really this simple. Just start vibe coding with AI tools like Cursor or Windsurf or some of the other ones. For me, the most important things are just making sure that you specify very clearly what it is you're trying to build, what is the goal, what are the outputs, any considerations around security or who the users are or where this project is actually going to live. As long as you've specified that reasonably well. In this case, because it's just a personal project, there are more considerations that I could take into account, but I'm just really not going to do that because it's just for me. So whether it's built completely correctly or not is not that important. I just want it to work and be reasonably efficient. So as long as I've described it well enough, it can generate the tasks. Then the tasks we've generated here are going to be enough for the AI to actually complete the task. It's really nice if you actually know something about software development or engineering, then you can go through all these and know exactly what it's talking about and detect blind spots where the AI might have missed something, overlooked something, or you actually want to tweak it a little bit so it doesn't just do whatever it thinks is best. All right, so I think that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, it's just going to be me going through and project managing the AI and fixing any issues that we might run into. And hopefully that's going to be the last video where we actually get this to run and we upload the code to GitHub and you can download and play with it. So I will see you in the next video.